temperature, the pressures have to be right, everything is within the green area, and all those checks. Now look, the rotor is turning.
It's also very cathartic to undertake like with the Ravens, the A check, because you have a relationship with your aeroplane, because that aeroplane's going to keep you alive.
Absolutely.
And you notice the tiniest little things but people think, well, look, big dirty, clean the aeroplane. But you find things. You see things like, why is there a little bit of oil there when there wasn't oil there before? It's just something that gets into the mind of a good pilot. There are people that jump into cars and take off and do stupid things, and unfortunately that is also the case with some pilots who don't really take the care of attention. But anyone with a military background, this is drilled into them. It becomes part of their being. It's part of what they do.
And we have liftoff.
Two crewmen. Paul Middleton, he's a qualified air crewman on Sea King and Wessex, and we have George. And it's a Westland built Sea King, because originally the US Navy, Sikorsky, developed the S-61, and it flew way back in 1959. But the philosophy with the American helicopters was quite different to the Royal Navy philosophy. American helicopters kept quite very close to the fleet. Many of them operated plane yards, units where if an aircraft flamed out and take off and carry the people up. And they also had an anti-submarine role, but it was more controlled by the aircraft carrier itself. The Royal Navy, the philosophy was quite different. It had all the independence to operate the various secret types.
The wonderful thing about the Sea King is it hovers, as we can see, which gives everyone a fantastic opportunity to photograph it from every angle you can imagine.
That's a rotor diameter of over 62 feet, nearly 19 metres, length of 17 metres or 55 feet. Cruise speed of about 112 knots and a range of 664 miles. Why do we say nautical miles? Speed is delivered in knots. That goes back to the old sailing ships. What knots would be 1 mile?
Now, the neck compartment of the Sea King can carry up to 22 survivors and a dozen stretchers, so you can see you had a boat in trouble.
Kevin,
Carry off to
great to
safety.
see. It is enormous, that rear compartment area. There were many modifications incorporated in the UK-built Sea King. Lots of components changed, including the engines to Rolls-Royce. The anti-submarine warfare. Major users were the Royal Navy, the RAF, the German Navy, the Indian Navy, and also the Belgians. This aircraft is one of the fleet of historic helicopters, which was established in 2013 by Andrew Whitehouse, and his aim is to preserve, restore to airworthy status and operate a select fleet of vintage military helicopters. You see a lot of Spitfires and this and that around the place. These really do have along during the Korean War, and the US military, and then the operation of helicopters just expanded in every direction in a military context. Historic helicopters currently have 12 helicopters, including one Westland Widgeon, one Westland Whirlwind, Wasp, 7 Sea Kings and 2 Westland Wessex. Historic helicopters, basically to educate the public, including, but not limited to, individuals aged 14 years and above, and those with a military background, the role of our armed forces and aviation generally, by collecting, conserving and preserving and providing apprenticeships. They're based at Chart Equestrian Centre Grounds, Chart in Somerset.
Now, what can we see coming out the door? The door opened a little wider just
We
now.
talked about the fourth crewman, George.
And George is being dropped down to, in theory, rescue somebody from who's bobbing around in the sea below.
It's not terribly accurate. The rover downwash from the helicopter. I spoke about the other gyro earlier on, the gyrocopter, where the air goes up in this case, the air is coming down through, and there is an actual formula that you can use to work out the speed of the downwash, and it gets right up there. I have actually seen with NH90 type blow over on the beach as it was coming into land over the ship away off the coast.
That's also one of the reasons that the Sea King was parked kind of out on its own and not on the fly line, so that when it took off, there was no chance of that downdraft damaging any of the aircraft.
I can get up to around about 150 kilometres an hour, depending on the type of helicopter. That's quite a lot of time.
So I don't know whether I'm feeling sorry for George or whether he's nice and calm there.
I think he's quite cool. He's come down to Haiti. See if the pyros from the TJD models earlier on might have upset any shirt down there. Of course, this is the role that these aircraft perform. It was not only out to sea, but they also dropped down medical aid to people on mountains lost in the snow all over the UK.
So George, in theory, has dropped down, picked up his passenger, clipped them in place. They're holding on tight, and now he's taken us safely up into the rear compartment of the Sea King.
Yeah, he looked quite comfortable while I was back there the other day. A few pixels were well deserved. Sea Kings were used in operations in the Falklands, military transport, anti-submarine search and rescue. Also took part in the Gulf War, the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Balkans there, in Iraq, Sierra Leone, Persian Gulf, Cyprus, Lebanon for Operation Highbrow, and also Afghanistan. Prince William, then Duke of Cambridge. He flew Sea Kings on search and rescue in Germany, Egypt, Qatar, and some of these are currently also flying with Ukraine. Slowly Ukraine. Very, very nice display there by Kev Matheson, as I said, over 2,500 hours on Sea Kings.
A new opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to give the team a wave as they fly down the crowd line. Cameras at the ready. Slipstream, hands in the air, please, give them a wave.
those of you who were observing that turn just then, you can see that the top surface of one of those blades has been painted in high-vis markings. You can actually see it there. It stands out very, very clearly, and that's for operational use for anything that is above it, so that they can easily identify where the helicopter is located. In its aggressor role, the armament carried was either 4 Mark 44 or 46 or Stingray torpedoes, or 4 depth charges, and it also had provision for a door-mounted machine gun of various calibers.
And interesting, that windscreen at the front can be jettisoned if the aircraft gets into trouble to allow the crew to escape in an emergency. So they're thinking about every element of flight safety as well as rescue.
Again, flight safety is paramount for every operation. And then the flag. Trailing birds in there. Give them a big wave of a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Raise the colours. There is an incredible amount of work involved in keeping one of these helicopters flying. If you think it might be expensive to operate a fixed-wing aircraft, then at least all the systems have a few problems here and there. And this is one of the aims of historic helicopters when it was originally set out by Andrew Whitehouse. That was to help people and to preserve history. Some versions of the aircraft fitted with a dipping sonar.
That's it, came super close. Everybody I'd say that would give Pete and his gyro a run for its money. Probably flying things like it.
Have a lot